Therefore the Yehudim were grumbling against him because he had said, I am the bread which came down out of the heaven. And they said, is not this Yeshua, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he says, I have come down out of the heaven? They weren't getting it. And Yeshua answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall be taught by Yahweh. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. See, here he's also alluding to the fact that he's Yahweh, isn't he? He says, they shall all be taught by Yahweh. And who's teaching them now? Who's the teacher? Yeshua. You see the connection? Not everyone has seen the Father except he who is from Elohim. He has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life. I am the bread of life. You know what? I don't know if it's going to take a few extra seconds, but let me just put this real quickly out there for you and see if we can follow this. Yeshua said in this section here, no one has seen or heard the Father. No one has seen him or heard his voice. Really? Then who did Abraham have lunch with? If the Yahweh of the Old Testament is the Father. Then who did Moses have conversations with? Who was it that they all heard on the mountain giving the Ten Commandments? Is it not maybe just possible, as Yeshua was laying it out here, that the only one they ever interacted with was him? That it was him in Yahweh form and then him in flesh form? Isn't that what he's trying to tell them? But they're not wanting to hear that. You know, when he said, you guys don't, he said, I came to show you the Father. And the Jews were all looking at him like, we've always had the Father. That's all we've ever had. What are you talking about? He said, no, you've only had me. The Father's not been here. Oh, I can't believe you just said that. It's on the recording. Oh, everybody's going to get stirred up now. But isn't that what he just said here? He said, look, he says right here, he says, not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from Elohim. If that's true, then who was eating lunch with Abraham? Then who was standing around with Moses? Okay? You know, Paul even says in one of the Gospels there where he says, I mean, not the Gospels, one of his writings, he says, look, the spiritual rock, that same rock that they followed in the desert was Messiah. I'm sorry to tell you this, but the Father doesn't show up until there's no more tameh. The laws of clean and unclean, nothing unclean. Until sin and death are thrown in the lake of fire in Revelation chapter 20, he doesn't show up until Revelation 21. When it says, and now Elohim is dwelling with man. Like this is the big deal, it's the first time. This is an important distinction. So for anybody who says, well, you just teach Torah and this and that, and you don't really believe about the Son. It's all about the Son. And the Son is telling us that it's all about the Father. You see how that works? He points us his finger to the Father. He directs us to the Father. Now that may be just way too much profound stuff for the middle of this teaching, but I just felt like it needed to be laid out because he says it right here in these verses. And he said it a couple of times. He says, look, no one has seen and no one has heard his voice. No one? They all stood at Mount Sinai and heard somebody's voice, and it was Yahweh's voice. Well then apparently that Yahweh's not the Father. And by the way, go back to the fire and brimstone and you'll see that Yahweh called down fire and brimstone from Yahweh. You know, my son's name is Stephen. Hey, you know what? My name is Stephen. Any problem with Yahweh having a son called Yahweh? Anybody have a problem with that? Having the same name? But see, there was confusion. The Jews didn't understand this. Yeshua had to point it out. He said, you've only interacted with me. He says, that's what Moses wrote about. Moses wrote about me. Not in some hidden way, but people think when he says that, he's talking about, well, you know that prophet greater than me when he comes? It's not about that verse. Everything Moses wrote was about Yeshua. Because Yeshua is Yahweh. And that's why it says, until you can say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh, he says, you will not see me again. Anyway, maybe that was just whatever. I hope you understand. I hope you're getting this, because this is critical. This is important.